Hey guys, I'm going to walk you through hooking up AngularFire to your application. So, down here I have a little step-by-step thing of what we'll be doing, so you can kind of follow along. I'll be using this as I go along. So first, let's clone the repo found here. I have it already brought up here. I'm going to go here. Then I'm going to open my terminal. And I have a folder called projects that I like to put all my things in. So I'm going to git clone the repo, and then I always want to name it RTFM app. If you do that after the clone URL, it becomes the name of the folder. Okay, so great. Let's cd into RTFM app. Great. And it appears to have everything we need. So let's hide this for a little bit, and let's open that folder in Sublime. So I have my projects folder already saved as favorite. Let's open it. Let's kill this other one, and let's use this. Great. So we have everything. So now we've done that. Let's start a local development server inside the new folder. So we're here. We're in the right one. Yep. We need an HTTP server. Well, that was easy. So we're going to hide that. That's done. And let's see if it is working. We're going to keep this tab open. Let's go to localhost 8080. For me, that was where it said it went. 8080, and this means localhost, if you've forgotten that. Same thing. Okay, so looks good. I can make a new thread. Looks great. Write a comment. Okay, appears to be working. Okay, and so now we're going to add Firebase and AngularFire to our thing. So we're going to Google AngularFire Quick Start. Give me this hit. Great, yep, that looks like Firebase and Angular, which is what we need. Let's put them there. Save that. Let's unbolt that. Everything still should be working. I always like to do this. Also, I always like to have my console open so we don't have caching and other issues, and so I can see if errors have happened. But yep, everything appears to be in order. So let's add Firebase to the module definition. So just to reiterate, this AngularFire library, when it was included, it added a Firebase module, and now we actually need to specify that module, that Firebase module, as a dependency of the RTFM app module. So that's called Firebase. Okay, that worked. Nothing appeared to happen. All right, now let's go to here and kind of follow along with what they're saying. Lots of it we already have done, like login skeleton and yeah. But right here, we want to create a constant with our Firebase URL. So this is pretty much exactly what we need. And we're going to put that right under this app definition. So we're declaring a constant called FB. That's an object that has a property called URL. Now that does not appear to be right. So let's change that and let's create an account that will. So let's hop on over to Firebase. I'm going to sign in. You are going to create an account. It's really easy, really quick. You can even sign up with GitHub. It doesn't matter either way. Then we're going to create a new app. It is called, I'm going to call mine Scott's Cool RTFM app. Okay, it's right here. Great, so we've done both of those. Now, let's go inside of our little database. This is a little JSON store database, and right now it's completely empty. Now, let's actually get some data in there. So since it's a JSON store database, this data we have declared here in the thread service, which we are just declaring statically, let's put that in the database through an import. So we actually have to, when we import, we need to choose a file. So let's just create a new one, Control N, copy and paste that and save it. Let's save it to the desktop. Let's just call it data.json. I just replaced it. And now we can choose that file, data.json, and we can import it into our database. And here we go. So now we actually have stuff. So you can see you can just kind of navigate the little JSON object. It's pretty simple. So, done that. Okay. Let's update this service called getAllThreads to return a Firebase array. Well, first actually let's kill all this because it's all going to be pulled dynamically. And well, actually let's keep it for a little while. Let's get getAllThreads pulling first. So first we need to do Firebase array, inject that, and we have access to that because we are using the Firebase AngularFire light module. And what we're going to do is we're going to do first we're going to create a new ref, which we can kind of find a little bit described how to do that right here. New Firebase fb.url. That's good. And also we need to inject fb. Remember, fb was declared here in app as a constant. It's just another thing we can inject, fb. And so that's going to return the ref. And if we actually want to pull the data from that location, we need to add the array to it, add the ref to hit this. So I think this should work. Let's see. And it didn't. First off, who does something wrong there? Okay, well, there we go. Let's refresh. Fatal error. That does not sound good. Okay, well, we also forgot to actually declare this right. Probably lots of you got that. So we need to go here, and it's actually the URL. Just the URL in here. This is our database that we just created. Let's put it there. See what happens. Okay, well, it's kind of working. Oh, so now I know what the problem is we need to, the ref, we need to add on threads. You'll notice that the root location is this JSON object. But if we go into the threads location, we're actually getting the data we want. So let's try that. And it worked. Okay, so this appears to be working. Now we've done this, let's make get thread comments to return a Firebase object, actually. We have to change that, sorry. Object at the specified ID. So it's going to be very similar to how we did this one. Delete this. This is going to be Firebase object. We need to make sure we inject that. Top. And we also need to get that thread ID, that specific thread ID. Okay, so, and in thread.js, they're going to be calling that right there, get thread. This is a thing we've done that will let us know what the data is once it's loaded. Because you recall that if we actually do a console.log right here, thread, yeah, you can see at first it was just kind of empty, and then later it had stuff. So yeah, it appears to be working though. So that is great news. So let's kind of recap. So this is working. To recap, essentially what we've done is we changed our thread service from this hard-coded data to actually getting it from Firebase. So let's delete all this because we don't need it anymore, because now it lives in Firebase and we're getting it dynamically. And yeah, it's really cool. And so these adding is not going to work yet, so we need to do that next. So let's use, actually, we need to, sorry, I misnamed this. We don't need to update the thread add methods. We need to, well, first in the main, where is it? Let's do main. In main, we need to do what's called scope.threads.add. That is a method that is defined in AngularFire. Let's go to AngularFire API. So we're using a Firebase array right there on get all threads. And there's this thing called add. This is how you actually add new data to a Firebase array. And scope.threads is a Firebase array. So let's do that. Let's go back here. Let's see if that works. Oh, that appeared to be working. And now here's the moment of truth. If I refresh the page, am I still going to get these newly added ones? And I do. So that's great because it means the data is actually being persisted. It's long-lived. Firebase is managing it. So that's really cool. Let's go to one of these. How do we write a new comment though? So this is going to bring us to scope bind to. So let's go to the documentation. So the get thread returns a Firebase object, and that is being used by thread.js right here. And let's delete this because we don't need that anymore. Get thread. So that that object has all of these methods. It has a save, loaded. There's this one called bind to, which let's want to focus on. It creates a three-way binding. So a three-way binding. You have the HTML, you have the JavaScript, and then you have Firebase. We'll imagine this is three pieces. And so essentially what that says is when Firebase changes, the HTML and the JavaScript will change. And also when you change the JavaScript, it'll be propagated back up to Firebase and the HTML. So they're all kind of synced together. It's pretty magical actually. So here's an example of it. So we have a Firebase object right there on scope.thread. So let's actually not call it scope.thread at this point. Let's just call it var thread. And then we attach it to the scope with this thread.bindTo method. And we pass the scope, and then we say the name of what we want it to be. And we want it to be called thread. And so this is going to create a variable. It creates a scope.thread with three-way binding. Okay, and that's actually it. So let's make sure things are still working though. Okay, it didn't seem to break anything because we're still getting these comments on this individual thread page. But let's use this three-way binding to add new comments. So, well, and actually it should just work because when we do scope.thread.comments.push, that's going to go to the scope object and it's going to push a new value to it. So let's actually go here. Let's go there. So I set a breakpoint, and when I click this add comment, it's going to go there. Okay. So we do have a new comment. That's good. The logged in user. That's good. Let's look at this scope.thread object. Okay, there's these dollar things. Those are things that were created by Firebase. You don't really need to worry about it. You have the title, the username, and these comments. Okay, and this is where those are coming from. And now we're going to push to that comments array, just using a regular JavaScript push, and then that's going to push to there. And now you'll notice that comments now has 3 items in it. And what's going to happen, actually magically, is since this thread object is bound, has a 3-way binding, the change in the JavaScript down here is going to propagate back up to Firebase. And so it will be persisted. Actually, we can probably see it in real time right here. So right now, you'll notice that there's only 2 comments. And I am going to click go, and you'll see we just got a new comment added right there. So it just did it, kind of magically. And so the point is, with the bind to, you can just change this object, this scope.thread, and whenever you change it, it gets synced to Firebase. So to recap, we wrote to Firebase with this thread this Firebase object, because getThread returns a Firebase object. We wrote to that using a 3-way binding, and then over here with threads, which was a Firebase array, we wrote to that using the $add method. So got that done. Okay, and I think everything is actually working great. Well, I may have killed something. Yeah, notice that's saved from when I did it last time. That's pretty cool. I refresh my page, still there, working like a champion. Okay, so it's going great. Now, there's one thing that I would like to do just to follow best practices. You'll notice in thread.html, or no, main.html, we are having these links using what's called $index. And that's just a variable that's created automatically whenever you use an ng repeat. So let's actually look at what threads are. Let's do the threads.loaded.then. Let's do console.log scope.threads. And let's see what that threads object looks like. Okay, so it's a bunch of, this is a Firebase array, and you'll notice there's these different methods. There's that $add method, which we used to write, where we use that? Right there. But here's the actual data. So each of those has an ID. You'll notice that this last one I just created on, like this last thing, it has a weird ID. Like it's an ID of like this. And actually, if you look in the database, so my first ones when I imported, had these nice ones. But since I was using the $add, it did the $add method created an ID like these, which is not what this is wanting. Like this URL actually doesn't exist in our database. Because that's going to be referencing the thread service. It's going to say go to the URL threads and then thread 4. But if you look over here, there is no thread 4. So, and that's the problem because of our links. Our links were using that $index. No, wrong page. They're using that $index, so which you don't want to use. So what we need to do is thread.$id. And you can see right here that each of the elements in this Firebase array have a $ID. And that actually refers to where they live in the Firebase database. And so now when we go here, it's actually going to take us to the correct location. We can, oh,